All right, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today's Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you for joining us today. We have a report on these X-class flares. First, let's get into our current conditions. Our solar wind speed is moderate, 371.1 kilometers per second, with a density of 10.85. Now, that is a little bit higher than usual. We're normally in the single digits. 10 is nothing to be crazy about. I've seen as high as 30s, 40s, even 50s. But definitely we are seeing a much denser impact on particles. Particle density is definitely a lot bigger. And I mean, yeah, it is, right? All the flare action that we've had over the past several days. So I expect to be a lot more highly charged particles impacting Earth these next several days. In fact, our space weather stats will prove that. Right now, we're sitting at sunspots number 116. You see a few more sunspots appearing around the northeastern limb. Let's go ahead and point those out, shall we? That's right. We got these over here. Combined with this particular behemoth and the outgoing sunspots over here, we have sunspot number 116. But as you can see, we are still dealing with some action, some crackling going on, and I want to nickname this sunspot Kellogg's for the snap, crackle, and pop, because that's all it's been doing since it's been Earth facing. KP indice sitting at 2, 24-hour max at 2 as well. And here's part of the reason why the density part that I was telling you about, how we are experiencing thicker density of highly charged particles. Cosmic radiation. I just checked. The last time we did a broadcast, which was on Saturday, we were negative 6.5% dosage rates. Today, we're negative 4.5, and just in the last 48-hour change, we've almost increased our cosmic radiation dosage by a full percent. Now, we're in the middle of a maximum, and cosmic radiation dosage rates nearly up 1% in one day. Excuse me, 48 hours. Which brings me to a couple other things too. But guys, there's a lot going on right now. And I don't have to sit here and make this up. I'm proving it to you by just showing you how we are seeing an increased amount of cosmic radiation over the last several days because of what the sun is doing. These are not direct hits on Earth, but it doesn't matter at this point. Obviously, we're still seeing an increase of cosmic radiation dosage rates, slight increase, and we are on the weak side of the sun. Our connection, we are all out there by ourselves right now. The rest of the solar system is on the back side of the sun. If we were looking at, let's pretend we're showing you Earth as it's viewing the sun right now. Okay, the rest of the solar system is on the back side of this. Earth is all by itself right now, and I'll show you that in a minute. But here's what makes AR 3590 so dangerous. Don't be surprised if there's another X-class flare this weekend. Giant sunspot AR 3590 is directly facing Earth, and it has an unstable magnetic field that harbors energy for the strongest explosions. Now, I find it interesting the wording that was been used here. This is according to spaceweather.com, that we are dealing with a sunspot that is capable of producing the strongest explosions. Usually when it says it harbors energy for, and then it'll say M class or C class or X class flare, they're saying strongest explosions. Okay. So that's the wording that I'm looking at here is, and it's interesting that they are just putting it out there like that. We need to watch, this particular spot for explosions. Bear with me, folks. Okay, just had to check something real quick. All right, so AR 3590 already starting off with a bang, but here's what we hear from NASA. this magnetic map from NASA, and I'll show you this here in a minute. Solar Dynamics Observatory shows that AR 3590 is dangerous because of the amount of positive poles that we see on this gigantic sunspot. Most sunspots have a simple magnetic field with only two poles, a plus and a minus. Sunspot AR 3590 is more like a layered cake with a whole stack of pluses and minuses. Opposite magnetic polarities pressed together in this way can lead to explosive magnetic reconnection, the mechanism behind solar flares. 30% chance of solar flares today and tomorrow. If it happens, this will be geo-effective. So definitely something we want to watch over the next couple of days, as we've already seen what AR 3590 is capable of thus far. It's no joke. I want to share this too real quick, where the Earth is when we're talking about the orbit here. Let's go to the Grand Solar Minimum.com and go to our space weather section. I'll show you the graphics here. So right there, this is what I'm trying to point out to everybody. Not that. It's a mouse pad. This right here. Put that down here. The other night, Lee Wheelbarger went live when the 6.3 unleashed, and I kept trying to tag him in Twitter, and I wanted him to talk about some things that were going on here. I briefly mentioned it. The main thing, though, is the weak connection between the sun and the Earth right now, where the Earth is in the orbits, okay? On the other side of the sun is where all the action is. So these green lines indicate stronger magnetic connections, very strong. When the lines are blue, it's almost non-existent, okay? So the most important thing that I wanted to talk about was the correlation between where the Earth is right now and this sunspot. Now, when that big 6.3 happened, it was on this side of the sun, and most of it went this way, and maybe we get a glancing blow, okay? We'll know tomorrow. Now the sunspot is right here, so where the tip of my arrow is, whatever flares off of the sun this weekend is going to be heading straight towards Earth. Now, it's not going to be a direct shot. As you know, this sunspot is in the northern part of the star. And to scale things out, just to give you an example where Earth would be, is right here in the middle of the sun. Still, what we need to watch is the explosions that come from from magnetic filaments being released. Also, we have a coronal hole that should show us an increase in solar wind here in the next few days as well. But this was a very intriguing situation because of right now we're having this really big sunspot. This sunspot has already given off an explosion, the largest since 2017. Okay. On top of that, we are in the weak side of the connection of the sun. Our magnetosphere is weaker. And you can say what you want to say, but when I'm showing you guys the space weather stuff, and you see the increase, that plus symbol, let me get my little handy dandy arrow. Look at that. There is a plus sign by this. In the maximum, the magnetic field is strengthening, okay? There should be no weakening of the magnetosphere during a solar maximum. However, when there is a weaker magnetosphere, it's because of this situation right here. The connection from the sun to Earth. And it could be weak because there's nothing else out here. The sun has to concentrate all of its strength and magnetic connections because all the planets are on this side of the solar system. So that's why everything's stronger over here. That's why when we talk about these big blasts that are happening behind the sun, and it doesn't affect us, right? We're on the other side. And a lot of times we see these really large explosions behind the sun because the weaker magnetic field connections on the far side of the sun. But right now, that's not the case. Our connection is the weakest in the solar system. It's going to be that way for the rest, well, for at least a few more months. And then we get to watch in October, see the gas giants. Yeah, Earth is going to be over here by October of 2024. And it's going to be just the 4 gas giants and Earth, and the rest of the solar system will be over here. So it'll be kind of an even teal here. Actually, when you got the 4 gas giants and Earth, the majority strength of the magnetic connections were going to be on this side of the sun. And these other planets, especially since Pluto's so far out, and how much smaller Mercury and Venus are compared to these 4 gas giants and Earth put together, there will be a slightly weaker connection on the far side of the sun. So much to talk about. It blows my mind when I see people who still have a problem grasping that what a grand solar minimum is. It's actually shocking because I know this channel's been on the air for 7 years. And we've done shows with Lee Wheelbarger. We've interviewed John Casey. We've talked to Valentina Zarkova twice in separate interviews. Plus, Mari has a personal relationship with her. All this information that we put across the channel is from PhD educated people. This is not, some guess that we're doing here. Everything that we show you is correlated. Everything. And like I said, we have a weaker connection. We showed you the empirical data. The cosmic radiation is coming in a little bit more because of that. Now, we're still in a maximum, so we're still at more of a strength in our magnetosphere than we would be, say, if we was at a minimum. But when planet Earth is on this side and everything is weak, we get that minimum effect. In fact, before today, the sunspot number was only, I think it said 46 when AR 3590 came across and did its magic. Right now, there's 116 because we have a few more developing sunspots. But usually, what's typical is when you have a weaker magnetosphere, you have a weaker corona as well. And when you have a weaker corona, you have a better chance of larger sunspots erupting solar flares because of how weak things are right now. Again, this is the science. This is not just some guess. But and then there's the other crowd out there that believes that because we've had a maximum that this grand solar minimum has been canceled. And again, that's another myth and misleading comment. Obviously, they don't understand what a grand solar minimum and how it works, how the cycles overlap. It's interesting. If you go back and look, you can Google it right now, the solar cycle charts from 23 till now, and you do see a decline in solar activity since solar cycle, I think 21, something like that, 22, off the top of my head. And even though this year's solar cycle is outperformed what some of the predictions were, it's not outperforming by a lot, and it's still considered weaker when you look at the charts of all the cycles that go down. It's a downward trend still to this day, even with the amount of solar activity we've seen from 25. This still comes in lower when it comes to average solar activity. I know there's a lot of people out there who think that the grand solar minimum's canceled because of an active 25. It's not that active. The average sunspot number in a solar cycle that's normal strength, not going into a grand solar minimum, is around 180 to 220 per cycle. Your peak number. 180 to 220 is average sunspot activity. Anything over 220 is very strong, And yeah, that's when we talk about grand solar maximums. But guess what? We're not in that phase of the cycle. We're getting ready to head into a slumber of lack of solar activity, and these minimums are going to show us that here in solar cycle 25, 26, and then 27 is really going to be in the teeth of this grand solar minimum. 26 and 25 are going to show us the declination. It's going to be a fast one. Already, some of the forecasts that people like Zarkova, who predicts mid 25 of the minimum kicking up. In my opinion, I think it's right on target. If you talk to David Birch out there on Twitter over in the UK, he'll tell you right now he thinks the maximum's peaked. It's done. We're starting to get on the other side of this maximum and start to decline any month. Maybe. And it's interesting too that this sunspot AR 3590 was the largest since September of 2017. Guys, that was the last very active month of geomagnetic activity before starting to see some of the minimum effects was in September 2017. We had multiple flares. I remember we lived in Buffalo. We had a week where we had action like this. I don't think they were as strong as this, but the 6.3 was comparable to the strongest in 17. But the lightning shows were incredible. We did have Aurora at that far south when we were in Buffalo, but it was also a G4 storm. Right now, and again, 17, we were already heading into a minimum, okay? So it wasn't like we were still smack dab in the middle of a peak. I'd say 2016 started the minimum cycle. We started seeing decreasing numbers in sunspots and larger coronal holes, and 16 headed into 17. So think about that for a minute. We got a G4 storm when the shields were weakened, right? When the magnetosphere was showing plus rates of cosmic radiation dosage rates. The fact that we're 4.5% below what that level was back in 2017 and still are seeing an increase in cosmic radiation dosage rates in the last 48 hours is proof that we need to be thankful that this large solar flare is happening during a maximum, guys. What little bit more strength this field is giving us right now is enough to protect us from a G4 geomagnetic. They're only predicting for a G5, or I'm sorry, a G1 storm this Sunday. A G1, a huge 6.3, very impressive. So to me, where we are in this cycle, what we're seeing, let's be thankful that this big flare is happening during a part where we have a little bit more strength in our magnetosphere, because if this was to happen in 2026, that could be big trouble. Cosmic radiation dosage rates go way up, and now we're talking it's going to fuel whatever storm system is out there working. It could be a hurricane, it could be a snowstorm, it doesn't matter. Cosmic radiation increases will cause more precipitation. And I don't know if you folks have paid attention, but think about this. In the minimum days when we talked in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, we were always reporting on these gigantic snowstorms, these huge floods, these constant rainstorms that would drop a month of rain in 3 hours. Cosmic radiation rates were very high. And now we talk about it here and there. That's the correlation, guys. It's this whole thing about climate change is that's another subject. We'll get into that at a different time. But to me, I just feel like the amount of particles that are in our atmosphere dictate what kind of storms we're going to see as far as depth of snow or how much we're going to get in rain. So again, so many factors that go into climate, and that could be a whole different show. But I really want to focus on what the sun is doing. Yes, impressive, but I don't know if it's as scary because we have that extra strength that we wouldn't have if this was a minimum solar flare. So, all right, I think I babbled on enough about that particular topic. I do want to show you, though, a couple more footages. Let's go there. Let's take a look at what these blasts look like, man, because it was impressive. Very, very impressive. Let's zoom that out a little bit. There we go. This is the 24th right here. which if you look on the right side of your screen, there's a buildup. What looks like it would be another discharge from the sun. There's the X-class flares from the 22nd. And then look to your right now, directly in the middle, this. So either LASCO is detecting that we were getting ready to have a big CME release, and it could be related to AR3590. But I do find it interesting that on the last time frame, at the 24th, at the 2200 hour of UTC, we do see a buildup here, what looks to be a filament release, possibly happening right now as we speak. But again, not to spread fear, because we do have a little bit stronger magnetosphere right now. So that's the only silver lining about what's happening right now. A lot of people not sure. And I'll tell you what, and I'll just quickly go through, over the last few days. This was our Saturday before show with the 3.3. And then, of course, we had the smaller ones after that, the M9, which was almost another X flare. And then shortly after that, moderate in 6.5, no big deal, right? And then quickly after that, well, here we go again, another X 2.5. We called that a major solar flare, thinking, all right, just, whatever. And then overnight, two X-class solar flares, 1.8 and 1.7 from 3590. And I'll tell you what, I know a lot of you out there, there's people out there who don't believe the solar flares had nothing to do with the outage with AT&T. But here's the thing. The only reason why I'm not convinced about the software issue, because it wasn't just AT&T. It was Verizon, it was T-Mobile, it was Cricket, it was Boost Mobile. And being from the industry of the wireless companies, to me, it feels like that those satellites, because in my household we have AT&T. Three of the four lines didn't have service. One line did. Is it possible that that one line that did have service, the signal was coming from a different satellite than the ones that we didn't have service? And what I'm trying to get at here is, are these X-class flares that are hurling all these highly charged particles around increasing it so much that we've seen over the last 8 to 10 days? Is it possible that there was some damage done to these satellites on that side of the orbit at the time? Because maybe they were in the line of fire. And I know it takes a couple of days of a CME wave to get to Earth, but I'm telling you, I've seen it when we've had strong solar flares, and the impact for seismic activity is almost instant. In fact, there was a 6.3 earthquake on the 23rd. So overnight on the 22nd into the 23rd, we had the big 6.3, and then, ironically, a magnitude 6.3 earthquake, and then, of course, the infamous cellular outage. So for the people that say it was a software update that wasn't done right, okay, that's possible. But it wasn't AT&T software, and that's what doesn't jive with me. That's why I doesn't understand why everyone's buying the software bit, because AT&T said their software was being updated. And it only affected, what, 75,000 to 100,000 people in the States? Our population is 393 million people in the United States. All three carriers were affected by this blackout. All three major carriers plus some prepaid ones. Again, why such a small number? Why not a bigger number if it was a software update? Wouldn't the whole system be completely yonkers? So I know there are a lot of people out there that say that this was a coincidence. Okay. I'll say this. There's a lot of shills out there saying that it was just an update on their software. What I mean by shills, some of the meteorologists that I follow on Facebook were saying, oh yeah, this was definitely not caused by the solar flares. A Weather Channel put an article out, oh yeah, this wasn't by solar flares. Those people, the mainstream, climate change people who think it's, what you think it is. Those are the ones telling us that nothing here to see. Nothing's wrong. No, that was coincidence that the flares happened and the networks went out. Say what you want. You're entitled to your own opinion. Mine is that the X-class flares definitely had an impact, possibly damaged some satellites from all the highly charged particles thrown around for the past 8 to 10 days. These satellites are not indestructible, folks. So we're going to see, I believe, in the future, moving forward, especially as our magnetosphere weakens, I think we're going to see more of these kinds of outages getting closer to this next minimum, because the strength of the lack of the strength in this upcoming minimum is going to be dropping our magnetosphere levels lower than we've ever seen. Each minimum so far since solar cycle 21 has become the deepest one since the last one. Solar cycle 24's minimum was the deepest in 150 years. The one before it was 115, 125 years, whatever. So what we see, based on PhD scientists who have shown us their forecasts, the solar cycles 26, 27, and 28 are going to be the heart of the grand solar minimum, where we will see reduced solar activity, if any at all, but we'll see reduced activity from the sun over a period of several solar cycles. That's what a grand solar minimum is. If anybody tries to tell you a grand solar minimum is a period of solar cycles without sunspots, they are lying to you. They are absolutely 100% lying to you. There is no such thing as an entire cycle without sunspots. And you say, but Jake, the Maunder minimum. We don't have the technology in the Maunder minimum to track the sunspots like we do now. In fact, the only reason why I think we're seeing higher sunspot numbers now compared to the Maunder minimum is because we can see them. We have a better way to track these things now. So I'm not one of those guys that says ice age is coming. I'm not one of those guys that says that there's not going to be any sunspots. Will we have colder climate? Yes, absolutely. Mini ice age for parts of the globe, possibly. Yes. And again, let's be thankful that the temperatures are over baseline right now, because that's what's going to give us the soft landing. We're sitting at a 0.83 above baseline. Even if we drop 0.3 to 0.7, we're still above baseline at that point. So if this is a deep grand solar minimum, which historically, looking at everything on an empirical level, this is the second grand cycle of 5 in what's called a super grand solar minimum, which a lot of people got confused on that. Oh, we're in a super grand solar minimum, so that means things are going to be more intense. No. Super just means 5 cycles. 5 grand cycles of 350 to 400 years are considered a super grand cycle. So it's just a measurement of time. It's not a measurement of strength. It's very important. History shows that the cycles at the beginning of these super grand solar minimums, like the Maunder minimum in Dalton, were supposed to be the strongest too. This one's supposed to be right there in the middle, if not closer to the Dalton minimum. And then the next grand solar minimum, which nobody will be around for that one's not going to be as weak as the one we just had. By the time they get to their 5th cycle, it won't be strong by any means, but it's not going to be as weak as the first 4. Then it resets again, okay, after 2,000 years, and that first grand cycle and that 2,000-year cycle will be the worst, the Maunder minimum cycle. So again, temperatures being higher. If you go to Dr. Roy Spencer, it's not the trend over year after year after year, but it is an indication that temperatures have been slightly climbing back up to well above baseline now. We're talking 0.83. It's been in the 0.8 or higher for the last 4 months. And that, like I said, I trust Dr. Spencer. I believe his information is very accurate and dependable. And we are seeing a result right now from temperatures being higher because we have been dealing with some pretty strong El Nino conditions. But the good news on that is about to wrap up as well. And I'll show you. First, does anybody want to take a look at the weather? I mean, real quick, nothing impressive. I do believe spring has got a good grip on most of the country. You see snow across the western states into the northern plain states. This is on February 28th, next week. Cold front, a little bit of ridge and fridge, but guess what? What usually happens is these kinds of cold fronts will get that cold air in place on areas that usually pick up heavy snows from systems like this, but that's not the case right now. By the time it's cold enough to snow, the bulk of this system will be moved out on the east coast. So chance for some flurries, maybe a coating to 3 inches in some areas in the northeast. But like I said, when this thing gets revved up, it's already out of here. It's a fast-moving system, and it's not going to be very, very problematic. But when you're seeing the snow up here in the northwest and in the Rockies, it's all higher elevation stuff, guys. We're not talking about anything major coming through here soon. So let's move on, get into March. Again, another similar setup with high pressure system setting up on the Atlantic, but keeping the snow well to our north. In fact, we're giving it all to Canada, so happy birthday or whatever. You're welcome for the snow. But that high pressure system still continues to hang around, but it's starting to drag up some warmer air, as you see here, heading into the early days of March. So now it's dragging up Gulf moisture and warmer air, and all this right here and here will probably turn into rain by the time it gets across to the northeast. Let's look. I don't know. I haven't seen this run yet. Exactly what happens. So spring is definitely trying to make its footprint, and severe thunderstorms. Woo! I hope that's not right. But it looks like we're going to start seeing an early severe season here as this low pressure system right across the Ohio Valley, bringing severe weather all the way up the Mississippi, western Tennessee, western Kentucky. Watch out, southwest Ohio. And the colder air is going to be in place a little bit more. That helps kill out the severe threat to the northeast. Obviously, it's going to be in the 40s and 50s. But again, systems here that we're seeing now, this is way far out. This is March 10th. I don't trust anything past 6 days. And not only that, but I saw a couple signals earlier in the month that I thought that we would have a chance to see a snowstorm this earlier week. That did not happen. Temperature too high. Notice this right here, though. This high pressure system, it's going to float up here. So we're basically going to see the same weather patterns. And that's why with looking at this high pressure is also going to gyrate warmer air up into the northeast and also across the east coast. So that's why I kind of think, too, that March is going to kind of hold this steady pattern of we're not going to see a lot of cold weather nor snow because it's going to be dragging up a lot of Gulf moisture. Let's take a look at our temperatures. That polar vortex trying to invade in the northeast. It's successful for a very short period of time. Tries to make a push again middle part of next week into early March, but again, spring is getting stronger and stronger. Here's a cold front that looks like it could do something, but then again, that warm front, this is where they think that snowstorm could be around March 8th, March 10th. Again, I don't trust anything that far out for the most part. The northeast may see some light snow, but nothing crazy. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look. That's not what I wanted to do, but I'll switch it from here. Precip moisture. Total snowfall. There we go. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. I mean, this is nothing crazy for February into March. I think they're overdoing it in the northeast on the snow, especially here in the capital region. I just think that's overdone. That's coming from that system that's moving through on March 8th. Again, that's way too far out. This all looks pretty accurate. And again, all this snow out here, this is definitely higher elevation stuff. It's crazy because the northern plains, an inch or two of snow cover. Obviously, we're not going to see any here in March. That's starting to warm up very good here. But again, lots of indications that damn groundhog might have been right. He might have been right. El Nino is starting to level out. We're at 1.1 now on the El Nino region 3-4. So again, a lot of people believe that we will see a stronger La Nina by the fall. I don't know how I feel about that, but we could be one and done with this current El Nino. If you guys remember, we did about 3 straight La Nina cycles. 3 straight. So I kind of thought we were going to pay for that. Maybe a back-to-back El Nino situation. This was a pretty impressive El Nino. It got as high, I think, as 1.5 over baseline, which is considered a strong El Nino. And the last time we had that kind of strength from an El Nino was in 2015. In fact, they talked about it a little bit on the Browns game that we had in 2015. The warmest game in Cleveland history in December was in the 2015 year, and it was 66 degrees that day on the 15th. I was there against the 49ers. I was wearing shorts and a jacket in Cleveland. Again, that was in 2015, right at the heart of a maximum. Only curious to see if there was, so we were in a maximum and a strong El Nino, and we had a mild winter that year. And here we are in a maximum and a strong El Nino. And here in the Northeast, it has been super mild. Crazy mild. In fact, I feel sorry for most people up here because they have a business that revolves around skiing, and they rely on tourists to book hotel rooms because they're going to ski this weekend. The winter festivals up here have closed early. They're not even doing it this weekend. They usually last into March, in the middle of March. They've had to close it, I think, early now. 3 years in a row, one for COVID, the other two for just temperatures not cooperating for the ice sculptures. So definitely some things happening. We're seeing some ups and downs, but we're going to see that, and it's all natural. And ENSO does drive our climate. From what we've observed, during the La Niñas, we saw more cold, more snow. During this El Nino, we've seen mild rain, less snow. Coincidence? No, don't think so. Could be wrong. Want to shout out a few people out here in the chat. Melody, good to see you out there. Jason Schmidt, also Arnold Schmidt. No relation, I don't think. Could be, never know. Good to see you guys out there as well. Nature's Intentions. Hello to Amari out there. Looks like she is definitely helping out the chat here, keeping the trolls at bay. But lots of new faces in here. Great to see you out there. Looks like we had some trolls in here today. Wow, you've been busy. Is irresponsible Samuel Carey. He's upset. Grow up, he says. Grow up. Oh my God. No one cares about your political beliefs. I didn't know I mentioned any political beliefs. Did I? I don't think I did. I think that guy might have had low blood sugar. Honestly, I don't know. It's crazy. He was pretty angry. Gosh, this guy had a rough day. Sorry about that, Samuel. I hate that you had such a rough day in the chat. Maybe tomorrow will be better for you. Okay. Shirley, good to see you out there as well. It's been a long time. Glad to see a lot of these faces that I'm mentioning here are folks that are longtime fans of this channel. You guys have followed us through thick and thin, through the ups and downs, and through the busy times and the not so busy times. But either way, thank you for being a part of our community. We welcome all. Come into the chat, be friendly to each other. If you're going to be a little grumpy Gus, sorry, we just don't promote negativity, so you won't be here. But other than that, looks like we had a pretty good day out there. Guys, I'm going to continue the live shows at least once a week on Saturdays. The next one will be Saturday at 1 p.m. However, we are monitoring the situation with AR 3590. And the fact that we're on a kind of an alert this weekend, don't be surprised to see a spur-of-the-moment broadcast tonight, tomorrow, whenever the case. Hell, it might even be in the middle of the night. If we get a big solar flare eruption, and it's big, we only have a few hours to take care of what we need to take care of, right? So just know Grand Solar Minimum channel is on top of this. We will continue to monitor this situation. And until our next show, I hope everyone has an awesome week next week. And please consider subscribing to our channel or joining our Patreon as well. Doesn't matter, either one, but all the support we can take, even comments or likes, we like those as well. That being said, hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will talk soon. Take care, guys.